Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to TMI. I want us tee off right now with a discussion segment as earlier deposited. With me here in the studio is a political analyst, political affairs commentator, an entrepreneur, a politician. Join me to welcome Etiosa Igebo. Yes, I like calling him Sonny on a Sunday morning. Welcome to TMI. I appreciate your coming.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we're expecting Ojo Imafidon of the PDP to come join us in the studio. Due to some circumstances, Labour Party representative, so to speak, Derek Ohunwago, stepped out of the studio to fix one or two things. Maybe, just maybe, he might or might not come back. But as I say, broadcasting, the show definitely will go on. Let's zoom in into the Osun State Governorship Tribunal with the outcome saying that Adeleke is not the winner due to, in quote right now, overvoting. And of course, they should give certificate of return to the ex-governor. Well, I say, okay, fine. The incumbent governor then, talking about Gboyega Oyetola. What do you feel about the tribunal judgment?
Well, I think it's a good feeling for me. I think for the fact that Beavers has played this role to establish the numbers of the accredited votes and the number of votes scored by the both candidates for both PDP and APC, I think is a welcome development to a large extent, whereby manual voting that has been digitalized to an extent to help improve the way our electoral processes work, to also give back power to the populace to determine who governs them, I think is a welcome development. And from the facts regarding that judgment, the court had to look at the physical facts in terms of the Beavers report on the registered voters, accredited voters, and the registered votes in each of the polling units in the areas where they were overvoting. So by adding and subtraction, they were able to establish that the previous governor,
Gboyega Oyetola,
Oyetola was the rightful winner. And with the lead, I think the PDP candidate in His Excellency Ademola Adeleke had 291,000 votes, while Oyetola had over 300,000 votes. So I think justice was served to a large extent.
Justice was served, according to you, to a large extent. Some are saying that it is like a slap on the face of democracy. Know you fully well that towards the end of the particular election, many held the new electoral act, amended. Many held the use also of the Beavers. Does it mean that the Beavers was faulty or it was hacked, or one cannot rely completely on the Beavers during elections?
Well, most times we always say rules are meant to be made and broken by people. And rules are usually driven by people. Policies and mechanisms to improve on how things are usually done. So, but when you look at the complaint, for instance, or the concerns about the Beavers, I think they should rather give Beavers credit rather than discredit, because in a sense, any system that you create always have a way that you can override it. Maybe they were compromised in some ways, and for the electronic system to identify that they were overvoting, and at the same time, if, say, for example, you have 100 registered voters in a particular unit, and then you now have 250 accredited votes, and then maybe you have 230 votes for a particular candidate, and the system or the registered vote on that particular unit says is 100, then you can already do your adds on and subtraction. So to me, I wouldn't really understand why there are complaints. If these are electronic data, just like you run a bank account, and it will enable you to say, well, I had a bank balance of, say, 300,000 naira, and for some reason you've been able to withdraw 600 or 580,000 naira.
Yeah.
So definitely there's some sort of power play. The electoral system under the APC-led government has improved. Digitalization of the electoral processes has been implemented. These are some of the beautiful outcomes or perhaps outcomes of how you see these electronic systems like the beavers helps to further fine-tune the idea of political engagement and give power back to the people.
Now, you use the term, how would I put it now, the term that you use, foul play.
Yes.
From who? From what end? After all, we have a sitting governor that lost the election at the first count. And the second governor said, look, there were some mistakes over voting somewhere along the line. It ought to be him that won the election. So who were the people, the group of persons that really carried this foul play from your own analysis?
Well, ordinarily, you would want to attribute that discussion or that point that we are referring to now to the political party that has lost the most votes that makes them the runners-up. If, for example, you won an election with, say, 20,000 votes, and by the time that numbers was taken away and you've lost over 30,000 votes, ordinarily, you would agree with me that it is the party that has made the most counts in the losses that you would assume has had this foul play. But I wouldn't necessarily think that we can attribute that to the party 100%, because at the end of the day, the party went for an election. They had people from INEC and polling agents, you know what I mean, INEC ad hoc staff and returning officers to operate a system that was going through a trial process. But even if there were errors made, and for some reason the system was overridden, either by the party that is affected, perhaps maybe either by the people that were handling those equipment. What is most important is that the redress has been taken to court, and the court has actually requested for this particular database in the data system that is stored for now and forever and ever. You can always refer back to it and made the necessary correction. So I wouldn't want to be too one-sided in the conversation to tell you that the foul play was particularly designed by a particular party, but I would want to assume from the facts before us that the party that has lost the most numbers, which is the PDP, and has now put them as runners up to the former Governor Oyetola, who's now the accredited or the viable winner of that election, you would assume that that sort of questions will be more directed towards them.
Now, all right, some of the opinion that, look, this is all about the general election, about permutation and combination, knowing fully well that there is somehow the strategic to the ruling party, APC, hence the judgment favored them. What's your take on that mentality?
Well, opinion divides people. In every game, there's people who are the people who celebrate, and there are those who lament. Sometimes in politics, they say no victor, no vanquish when it comes to primaries. But when it comes to a general election, you say, well, he's the winner and the other party is the loser. If people are saying those things, or maybe other party, opposition parties are saying that this is all politics, I bet them to kind of look at the numbers at which the election was declared for Senator Adeleke, who was the governor that may have lost this judgment from the courts. He only won the incumbent governor with just 20,000 votes. So obviously we also...
And those votes were enough to make him remain as the governor, but now according to him, it was snatched from him.
It wasn't.
By the ruling party.
By the time they looked at the numbers and the figure, if it was a manual system, prior before now, it would have been very difficult to establish those facts. You know, because the registration of registered voters now is a process that is stored on a database. So the cheating level is very limited now. It's not like a manual process all the way. It's not digitalized to a very large extent. So if you have a situation whereby a particular candidate wins a governorship election with 20,000 votes overall, and then by the time the numbers are looked at, because the incumbent governor felt it was played out or rigged out in a particular area, and then those documents was brought before the court, and the agents of the both parties and the forensic and independent bodies, including INEC, looked at this evidence and found they wanting to remove more than 20,000 votes. They practically removed over 30,000 votes. Then I don't think there's foul play. I think it's a case of people cheating the system, and then when you seek redress in court, the facts are put before the judge, and then based on that, the judge made a pronouncement and said, well, it was the previous governor, His Excellency Governor Oyetola, that won the election. And I strongly believe that he won.
Are you not saying that the beavers can be manipulated?
Well, if you look at
because INEC used that same beavers to count, the votes of the electorate, and it came out with that numbers, or with those numbers saying that Adeleke was the winner of the election, with the same beavers, and going back again to the same beavers saying no, it's wrong. We have to deduct, so to speak, some numbers from Adeleke's gotten result, and this is the final outcome. These are the same beavers.
Yeah, well, you see, when you look at the particular complaints within that electoral processes in Osun, there are so many polling units in the entire state. There are different zones and senatorial zones. But what they've questioned is the particular area why I think the Adeleke was much stronger, which is perhaps his own home base, sort of. So I'm saying it is a known fact and very practical in politics that area where you are popular, you can actually read. Where people over-cooperate to say this is one of our own, and then there are compromises in some areas. Yes, at times you can throw out those sort of errors. But like I said before, the entire state has been looked at. This particular area were, figured out and sectioned out and say, well, we believe that there were perhaps intimidation. We believe that there were foul play. And when the facts was put before the courts, and these facts are not made up by the PDP or the APC, these are processes where errors happen. There is no way the beavers can give you 100%. You see what I'm saying? But from the Osun election, it is obvious that there is maybe up to like, I could say 15% sort of, there were errors. And that error has been corrected now. It is possible that some errors happen because these are computer systems that can be possibly override in some cases depending on the handlers of that process. And if there were errors and these errors was found wanting, then the court made a pronouncement based on that.
The question is, who were those that committed these errors, knowingly or intentionally? Some are saying there were no errors with the beaver because all of them that came out to vote, they were accounted for.
No, I mean, it is obviously clear that there were errors. Because you see, when it comes to the issues of registered voters in a particular unit, these are things that is trivial to INEC to a large extent. And also, the parties who are contesting, like for example, in my polling units, we have, say, over 400 to 500 registered voters or more. We have that list of the registered votes. But you see, sometimes during electoral processes, there are ways people can get a bit violent in election times. They can decide to push and press the INEC people to constantly take people and allow them to vote, even if those medium of voting is compromised. Do you see what I'm saying? It is possible that some of the cards that they've used to vote, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was not meant to have been used in that polling unit. But for some reason, every system has its strengths and weaknesses, what they call the SWOT analysis. So I believe the beavers process is still under trials. And I believe that ANEC will be taking measures to make sure that whatever thing that may have happened, in this case, does not happen again. Because I heard from whispers, Chinese whispers, that there was a particular code that was being imputed into the beaver system, either through direct or through cooperations or compromise, that enabled the overvoting to take place. But these are all speculations. You see what I'm saying? But what I know that is factual is that if you have 1,000 registered voters in the polling unit, it will make no sense to now have 1,500 vote cast when perhaps there was 2,000 accredited votes. When in the INEC database, it shows that the valid registered voters in a particular unit is 1,000. So that is what they've done. They've actually looked at the numbers, looked at the number of people that voted for the APC, looked at the number of people that voted for Labour Party and PDP, subtracted the overvoting, and counted the valid votes that was casted for each of the candidates. And they found out that the PDP had overvoted, and they removed those numbers, through the legal system and declared Oyetola as the rightful winner.
Now, you use the Chinese whispers. If there's anything to go by, do you think that this may just cast a kind of a shadow of doubt on the beavers, knowing fully well that somewhere along the line it can be manipulated?
No, not necessarily. Whatever we do is subject to process improvement. There's nothing, even if you have a brand new vehicle today and you're driving it from Lagos to Abuja, you can have a misfortune on the way. You can come up with any sort of problem, even if it's brand new. Even we humans make mistakes. When you input information into a computer system, sometimes you can get the wrong output. You see what I'm saying? These processes are work in progress, and I'm happy with the progress we've made. Just say, for example, somebody is a government official and is in office, and by the time they run their times in office, everything seems fine. But by the time they are out of power and a new leader comes on board, or a new governor, for instance, or chairman, and you go back to the books, there's always this some errors that are found. And I don't think you can take that away from the beaver as a system. Just like you have aircraft that runs on fully autopilot and computerized systems. Sometimes it malfunctions and the aircraft crashes. Most times people die. So, but if you look at the rate at which those things happens, the limitations and the improvement in the process is kind of 99%. So I think the same thing applies to the beavers. The beavers is a very, very good system. It is a system that is subject to improvement. It is a system that will give the electorate the rights and the ability to vote for the candidates they want. And these are the sort of improvement and progress we want to see in the Nigerian states, so that there's no much manual manipulations. When people used to go to the polling unit, pull out a pull drive bar, fire some rounds, people runs away, they take the ballot boxes into the bushes, thumbprint them manually, take it through the bushes, somewhere into the collation center, and make those votes count. Those things are eradicated for life now. So to me, I think the state at which we are, from signing the Electoral Act into law, has really done us as a people a hell of a great deal. Because it means that whatever errors we found through practical engagement with the beavers can also be subject to improvement. So that at the end of the day, there will be coding that will be put into the beavers that will prevent people who are handling the beavers, or maybe party members who are overzealous, or those perhaps candidates or members of the party who are trying to compromise the voting system, to desist, knowing fully well that when they do that, and these processes are challenged at the court of law, the electronic facts will be brought out like a bank statement, and the facts will be put before the judges, and some very viable and strong decisions can be made. I think this has helped the judges and the lawyers' jobs to be much easier, unlike before when it is very hard to collect voting and things like that. So I'm very happy with the development, and I don't think that there's a foul play, and I don't think it's politics. It's just purely over voting. The numbers was taken out, and APC themselves also lost some numbers to a large extent from the overvoting, and the winner was declared.
All right, now you're saying that APC also lost some numbers to overvoting, and of course PDP lost majorly in the overvoting count and the rest of them. And now you talked about the whispers. Do you think it's going to affect the outcome of the general election? Because INEC said that the Osun State election was like, a testing ground for the beavers.
Sure.
And these are the complaints we are getting from the beavers just for a state. We're talking about 36 states, Federal Capital Territory. The election will come up, let's say, in less than a month time. Should Nigerians still really rely wholeheartedly on the beavers, knowing fully well about the outcome of this election?
Yeah, I think Nigerians will be very pleased and happy that the beaver system is electronic. With electronic systems, you can hardly ever hide misappropriation or malpractices. You see what I'm saying? A beaver system, an electronic system, is like a CCTV camera that captures the scene of a crime real time and stores it into a system. When you go back to that particular system, and then you play back the camera, you realize that whatever information that you may have been given will be finally settled when the camera is played back. So I think Nigerians should be very pleased and happy that the current government has been able to push this through, that the manual system that has made them dissatisfied and uninterested in voting is a thing that is eventually coming to an end. So I think they should be happy. Like INEC rightly said, it is a testing ground. Life, if you make a new car today, when you produce another one next year, there's elements within the car that is also improved. So I believe INEC will go back to the drawing board, working with the experience and the outcome of these elections from Ekiti and Osun to further strengthen the coding, so that whatever areas they think the errors has come from, people are not able to practically use it again to shortchange and change the will of the people. So I think it's something that I should be happy about, and I believe it's going to really help the electoral process going forward.
All right, hello. I had a bit that the judgment, so to speak, in favor of the APC. Would you have been of the same opinion?
Well, the election from the very beginning didn't favor the APC. They took it in good faith. You know, they didn't. I remember when Governor Adeleke was declared the winner. Oyetola, His Excellency Governor Oyetola said that his members should be calm. Members of the party don't go into breaking down of law and order. Don't do anything that will not be fitting of a citizen of Osun. He told them to stay calm, that he was going to look at the outcome of the elections. In the areas where complaints came back, where intimidation or maybe certain foul play happened, he had to seek redress in court. He has done that, and today that has paid off. I think that was befitting of a gentleman in H. Oyetola, and we want people to behave that same way within the political space, so that will enable everybody to have participation, whether or not you're a man of God, whether or not you're a business person, whether or not you're a woman, a man, a young person within the age to vote, you can actually go and exercise your franchise without taking laws into your hand, because at the end of the day, Governor Adeleke was a governor for everybody in Osun. He was not a governor for a particular political party as a vehicle that is used to contest that election. And if Oyetola comes back as governor, he will still be governor for the whole Osun state. So to me, I was very pleased and happy with the maturity and the approach of His Excellency Governor Oyetola, telling his people not to fight, to just relax, let him address the matter in court. If the court has said otherwise, I also believe very strongly that His Excellency Governor Oyetola would have accepted it in good faith.
All right. Well, it's all about the Tribunal, talking about the reinstatement, so to speak, of Gboyega Oyetola. It was very meant for him and his supporters. Well, on the other hand, for Senator Adeleke, was saying that this is a democracy being bashed. Some of them went out protesting, saying, no, this is not what they really expected. After all, they follow the rules and regulations governing electioneering, but this is what they get. Does that mean that results right now from elections in Nigeria will most time end up in court?
Well, like I said, life is subject to process improvement. Whatever you do, you strive to make it better the next time. For me, from the questions you just asked,
yes,
I think that the electionary process, to a very large extent, is going to constantly improve for the better. Before we got here, things were never like this. In most cases, from 1999 till the time the PDP government were ousted, they've never wanted to improve on the system. I mean, just a bit to digress a bit, I happen to have somebody who is a very close brother of mine from Osun State, in the name of Honorable Oloremi. He works with His Excellency Governor Oyetola. 3 weeks ago, there was a heavy attack in his office because he was a key witness to the case. Because these were these guys that was part of this electoral process who understood the area where they felt they needed to tackle legally. Instead of going into having a confrontation and having unnecessary fight and creating problems, especially when we know that there's a lot of gullible people within the system, they went to court, and they also gave witness as well. Just yesterday, his office was attacked again with gunshots. These are the things under the leadership of H.E. Governor Oyetola that has never happened in the 8 years in office. No opposition was attacked, nobody was intimidated. But with all due respect, since the coming of the PDP government, those ugly trends happens to have come back.
Yeah, well, these are just allegations you're posing right now
I read it in the
against.
newspaper.
Yeah, you might have read it, but that's the account of one person. We didn't go to the PDP to find out if really these stories can be substantiated.
Well, I kind of understand where you're coming from. It's just that I saw real-life videos and the incidents. But then again, since there's no persons to speak for them, to say, well, he didn't say it on the media or not, then I think we can pass on that. But what I'm just trying to say is that the Osun election was an election that happened, and at the end, nobody was killed. There was no major incidents. I think that is the most important thing. And then the election took place, and then the winner was declared. And those who felt they should have won and they were rigged out in certain area went to court, seek redress, and then they were found wanting, that there was overvoting. And at the end of the day, it's been declared the winner. I think this law should take it in good faith.
All right, now going to appeal the judgment, do you think is a wise choice or a smart move by Senator Adeleke?
Well, you cannot tell His Excellency Senator Adeleke not to appeal, because it's within his human rights. He has every right to go as far as the Supreme Court. But the good thing about the processes now under the Electoral Act is that there's been a time frame set that instead of these cases to linger forever and keep dragging the people of Osun back, for instance, where governance becomes practically stored, the Electoral Act signed under this government and dispensation has given a time frame, which means between now and the next 4 months, the issue of the court cases should be completed from appeal to Supreme Court. So I believe that His Excellency Governor Oyetola will have victory, because these are about numbers, physical numbers. Because what the appeal court will do is to go back to the same records and to check if what was done was not appropriate, if the records at INEC was not correct, and then they will, based on that, also make their decision. If His Excellency Senator Ademola Adeleke feels that he's still not satisfied, he has the right within his constitutional rights as a human being to go to Supreme Court. By the time he exhausts all these aspects, that is when you say whether or not it is a right decision or not. Because remember, he's not alone. He has party members, he has people who may not be happy with the outcome, who would have told him, well, His Excellency, you have to follow this to Supreme Court, which is the usual trend these days. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Oh, well, let's see how all this will pan out, because right now they're talking about going for an appeal. They're going to appeal the case and push it to the highest level so far, as long as it falls within the time frame stipulated by the Electoral Act. Now, how do you think Osun governance will look like right now? A governor exited the scene. We have a new governor, and he was reinstated. There are some things that Senator Adeleke did while he was named the governor. And within how many months there's a change? Do you think it will be easy for Oyetola to, like, stabilize governance, bring it back to the way he left it?
What do you say change? Can you be a bit more specific about the change with Adeleke? Are you talking?
Don't forget that before Oyetola left office, then he was able to, like, empower some persons, more permanent sec, and the rest of them. Adeleke came in and upturned that particular act by the former governor. So how do you think all this will be settled?
I wanted to just put a question back.
Yeah.
Those information about upturning those things that was done by the previous governor, was it information and things you read on the newspapers? Was it things you read online? I'm asking you. Was it information?
I'm the anchor. I am the anchor.
The reason why I'm saying this, the reason why I'm saying this is because I read things on Tribunal and Vanguard this day about the attacks on a particular ex-commissioner from Osun. You did say that it could be an allegation, but I read it on the newspaper. But then again, with this information of what you've spoken about now, that things you have done, well, he's still the governor. If he's going on appeal, he would have filed for stay of execution. So he remains the governor until the matter is finalized at the Supreme Court. So whatever he has done and turned around, if he felt it was a better way to handle things, which is His Excellency Governor Adeleke will remain until the decision on the Supreme Court within the next 4 months. So I don't think there's much to say about that.
All right, now you said that Nigerians should really, like, be scared about the outcome of the judgment, because beavers should be trusted, and of course INEC also should be trusted in carrying out their duties. But don't forget about the Chinese whisper you talked about.
Yeah, well, I never use the word trusted. What I'm saying is that they should have more faith in the process. The system that have been introduced, like Annex rightly said, you even mentioned it here, that they are still going through the trial period. When they try it and they see errors, they will go back and code it again, bring in new measures within the digital system. That is the beauty about digitalization. It's just like having a bank account with an app or a website that is weak. But by the time the bank sees that people are hacking into their system, they can actually bring in more measures to strengthen the security system of not being able to overrun that system. I think that is what digitalization is about. And that is why the people have been crying for emulating processes and systems that is used in the Western world, like in America and other countries that democracy is striving much better than Africa. And for the current governments to engage in such and make sure that these processes is being put in place, it will help people to vote candidates that they want into power, and the votes will count to represent them. And if they don't perform execute the promises they've made, these same people can equally go back to the polls and vote them out. So I think that credit should be given to the current government for being able to implement this process. Now, what we need to do is just improve on the beavers. I think the beavers coming is a game changer, and I think Nigerians should be more confident and participate more in this process, because we all need a country that works for everybody, not just running sentiments, not be part of a system, blaming people who may not have been wrong on any doings. Sometimes people are not in government, they are blamed because they are considered big men or they have influence within the political system. Those sort of things will be eradicated, and the ingenuity will be reestablished, and the genuinity comes on board, and then people can actually interface and represent their people through the fact that, through the process of these people trusting and voting them into power. Not the usual way from 1999, when ballot boxes are stolen for over 16 years. Nothing is done about it, and at the end, the winner is declared. They don't care about the people. They don't need to keep up to their promises, and at the same time, comes back for re-election, and in most cases get re-elected. But with this, when you treat the people badly, and you don't give them good leadership and dividends of democracy, with the help of beavers and unity within the movement of the citizens of this country, they will determine who they think is best to govern them. And that is the sort of things I stand for. And I can't wait to see those things manifest more across board, whereby the country will be standing out as the strongest and the best country in Africa, where citizens will come and feel safe, participate in the process, and not transfer blame. And when people are doing their best, like the current government is doing their best, there are the aspect of sabotage, then we can also look in between the line and come together as a team and as a group of people and say, well, we think this is happening this way, and constantly improve on it, because Nigeria belongs to all of us.
All right, all right. Well, you've heard his opinions and views on this particular issue. He said at least we can still give the beavers a draft choice, as the beavers that really came out with, according to him, be over voting and all that. But he mentioned something about the Chinese whisper, that this thing can be a little bit tweaked. I don't know about that. I just keep watching. I believe that if the system is broken, another system will come up again to fortify the system to prevent it from being broken a second time. But think about it. In the election of Osun State, the governorship election, to be precise, beavers was used, and the election was held to be peaceful, despite the fact we have the report of vote buying, but it didn't get to that extent of beavers manipulation. How come we have the case of overvoting in some particular cities in Osun State? And how come also we have numbers being deducted from, supposedly people that have come out to vote, to really get the exact number of votes that really made up all the numbers of valid and counted votes? The big question now is, who were those responsible for bringing out those figures? How come INEC was able to detect those excess votes until Oyetola cry to the court for a recount, and those votes were discovered. Is it the mischief of the ruling party or the opposition? Nobody can tell. All we need right now is free, fair, credible election, and to rely more on the beavers and see if there are shortcomings of that beaver, so that we can really depend on the beavers in conducting the elections that will come up in less than a month. Yes, in less than a month. We want to go on the break. When we return, we will take a look at what is going on right now with the fuel pump price, petrol scarcity, how it's affecting Nigerians. Don't forget about the blame game. Don't go away. We'll be right back.